Good morning and welcome to the morning after for Friday, February the 14th, 2014. And happy Valentine's Day to all those of you that are indeed celebrating Valentine's Day, which, as you know, has been, what shall we say, invented by Hallmark greeting cards, I think, because the incredible business that is generated at Valentine's Day. And, of course, everybody making everyone feel guilty if they haven't done something. Remember yesterday at my Rotary meeting, there was a show of hands of how many have actually done something, prepared something for Valentine's Day today, and absolutely nobody raised their hand. So it's indicative of everybody sort of waiting to the last minute to send flowers or do something. So anyways, happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. And we're going to start off this morning with a local news. Of course, we'll talk about the weather, which is now getting better, shall we say. We've experienced some cold weather here in Peachland, and of course, I know the rest of the world is topsy-turvy. Sochi has temperatures in the 70-degree beach weather for the Winter Olympics. The eastern United States is being bombarded by incredible storms, and I'm sure you've all been hearing and reading about that, so no need to talk about that anymore. It's been talked to death on all the media and the storms that are heading for eastern Canada now as well. Anyways, right here in Peachland, which we should really just be concerned about how we go about our day-to-day activities here. And certainly yesterday the wind was blowing off the lake and it was really quite blustery, but it was warm. You did feel that warmth in the air. It's 1 degree right now, Celsius. It feels a little more like -4 because of the wind. And we got a wind of about south at 20 kilometers an hour and wind gusts of 30 kilometers an hour. So that's coming off the lake, and it is pretty breezy as we sit high atop the weather tower here at Peachland Radio, overlooking the beautiful, gorgeous Lake Okanagan in beautiful Peachland, British Columbia. Historic Peachland, by the way. A number of people have asked me whether or not there's been a radio station. Has there ever been a radio station here in Peachland? And, and in all its history, it's never really had a radio station. And so that's what we're doing here with Peachland Radio. So it's exciting. So the forecast for this afternoon is 8 degrees. It's going to be warming up, a variable cloudiness. Tonight it's going to be clear, so you can see that full moon. Wow, last night I took my little dog Sawyer out for a walk about 10:30, 11 o'clock to do his business. And, it was absolutely gorgeous. The moon was glistening off the water. It was absolutely still and quiet, and I'll tell you, it's magical. It's magical to be somewhere where you can walk out your back door, which we are blessed. We are close to the lake, right across the street from the lake, and you can just sort of take a deep breath and value everything that you're surrounded by. So the moon was out, a full moon, and people are probably howling now. And wondering why things are a little funny. Well, every time there's a full moon, people get a little funny and strange things, weird things happen. But last night was just phenomenal, and he and I just sort of stood there and gazed at the lake, and with the moon shining off the lake, it was picturesque. Moonlight in Vermont. I could have just Moonlight in Peachland. I could have broken into song, Moonlight in Peachland, and pretended I was Frank Sinatra. So Moonlight in Peachland, there you go. Overnight tonight, -2. Tomorrow, scattered showers, a high of 5. And the weekend looks a little bit dicey. Scattered flurries, 4 degrees. Monday, isolated showers in 5. Tuesday, scattered showers in 4. And by next Wednesday, another few flurries at 3 degrees. So, but at least it's staying above freezing. Overnight lows somewhere around the 1 degree to -2 mark, so not too bad. And when we look at the really, really long range forecast, it gets a little cool towards the end of next week. There's an overnight low of -7 on Thursday, February the 20th. And it's going to remain cold for towards the end of next week with temperatures of -8 and highs of near freezing. All right, that's the weather, my friends. And so we'll turn the weather window off and let's talk about a couple of things that I think are really important from the standpoint of, from Peachland's standpoint, locally. I'm going to talk about the Peachland Business Excellence Awards, which are coming up on March the 8th, Saturday, March the 8th. And today is the deadline for ballots. The 2013-2014 Peachland Business Excellence Awards. By 5 o'clock today, you have to have your ballot in. Now, the ballots can be dropped off at the Peachland View, the Peachland Visitor Center, Johnson Meyer Insurance, at the Peachland Museum, at the library, Bliss Bakery, or Blind Angler. And you can even pick those up. You can even pick the ballots up. I noticed yesterday morning I had a quick coffee at the A&W, and they were available there. So you can get them there. And it's one ballot sheet per voter. And you do not need to nominate a business in every category. So you don't need to fill out the whole ballot because there's like 8 categories. So to be eligible for nomination, the Business Award nominees must be a licensed Peachland business or a member of the Peachland Chamber in good standing and have been in business for at least 2 years, with the exception of the Rising Star Award, which honors new startup businesses. So you get one ballot sheet per voter, and I would suggest get out there today and drop your ballot off before 5 o'clock today. So that's just a word to the wise. And then we can also tell you a little bit about the Night of Excellence, which is the Business Awards, which is March the 8th. And we'll be the master of ceremonies for that event. And I can tell you this, that the tickets are going quickly. So give Gail a call or drop down to the chamber office and pick up your tickets. It's going to be an exciting event. There's going to be a private finalist reception from 5 to 6. The doors are open for cocktails at 6. Dinner and award ceremony is at 6:30 with a dance to follow. The keynote speaker is going to be Martin Salem from the Chamber of Commerce Executives of Canada. It's going to be a live and silent auction. Catering by the Guest House on the Lake. Music by DJ Haymaker. And the tickets are $50 per person, available online at www.peachlandchamber.bc.ca. So you can go to those. Once you listen to the broadcast this morning, you can go online at www.peachlandchamber.bc.ca and at the chamber office. That's at the chamber. Or you can also go to the chamber office and see Gail, get your tickets, and mark your calendar. It's going to be a great event, and we'd love to see all of you there. Okay, so also at the chamber, some more chamber business here to cover off. On Tuesday night, yours truly will be presenting to chamber members the opportunity to be a partner with Peachland Radio. We're talking about historic Peachland. Well, this is a historic event, Peachland's first radio station, and so we're now inviting partnerships with the radio station, and we'll be talking about that and also telling you a little bit about the radio station, the programs that we currently are running, the plans we have in the immediate future, and we'll talk about our big community launch, which is going to be it's going to be a great, on a weekend of the Victoria Day weekend, in conjunction with the World of Wheels, which generally attracts about 10,000 people. It's a wonderful, antique car show, parade, what have you, and Peachland is just flooded with people coming to see that. So we're going to launch the radio station with live and local programming on May the Saturday, May the 17th. I believe it's May the 17th. Oh my goodness, am I going to make a mistake? Or it's the Victoria Day weekend, and it's the Saturday of the Victoria Day weekend. So we hope that you'll be able to attend that. But I'll be talking more about that on Tuesday night. So I'm inviting all of you that are listening, who are chamber members, to come Tuesday night at 5:30. There'll be a networking reception, And at 6:30 will be the quarterly meeting, and around that time I'll be making my presentation. So if you want to get, you need to RSVP for that. The seating is limited, and it's picking up very quickly. So you want to get a hold of Gail down there at the chamber office to get your RSVP. And there's a cash bar and complimentary appies. You can't beat that. And I look forward to meeting as many of you as possible and sharing some exciting news that you can only get if you come Tuesday night. So be there or be square, as they say in the trade. I'm looking forward to that and making some announcements to the group that's there. So get a hold of Gail at 250-767-2422. That's 250-767-2422. That's the chamber office. Her email address is gailscott, all one word, at peachlandchamber.bc.ca. That's gailscott, all one word, at peachlandchamber.bc.ca. This is all going to happen at the Peachland Visitors Center, and we encourage you to RSVP Gail today and get your name in, because, as I say, seating is limited and it's filling up fairly quickly. So there you go. That's in conjunction with Chamber Week, I believe, as well. So there's a lot going on. All right, on to an article that appeared in the Globe and Mail, which also relates to our wonderful little community here, and it is about the 3 affordable places to retire in BC. Yes, they exist. This is by Carrie Gold, who was a reporter, special to the Globe and Mail. It appeared on Monday, February the 10th, I should say. And it was part of a series on retirement and second home destinations in North America. And the article said, while British Columbia boasts some of the most temperate climates in the country, its real estate can also be some of the priciest. For those thinking of retiring or buying a second home in the province, it makes the choice of locales somewhat complex, according to Don Campbell, a senior analyst with the Real Estate Investment Network. He advises potential buyers to look further afield from Vancouver and Victoria to smaller communities with thriving economies. There are still BC regional markets that are relatively affordable, says Mr. Campbell, who is also an author and real estate investor. First, though, retirees should make a carefully calculated decision, he says, if they want to cash out of large family homes in a city for a quieter life. They should consider smaller communities near solid infrastructure, such as an airport, ferry service, a hospital, and a retail center. These factors can help when it comes to sell the property. They should also consider that they might still need a home big enough for overnight guests, he says. So, answering the age-old question, where are the grandkids going to sleep? We're going to face that issue this summer, and I'm sure a lot of other grandparents are here in Peachland as well. And if the whole point of retiring is living the good life, they should then look for a temperate climate, community amenities, and access to trails, water, ski slopes, and vineyards, the best features of British Columbia, he says. Several areas of the province fit those criteria. Prices in several regional markets have softened in the past 5 years, which means it's often a buyer's market, according to Landcore Data Corp. Peachland, that's us folks, outside Kelowna, the Comox Valley on Vancouver Island, and the Sunshine Coast are 3 retirement hotspots that offer affordability and favorable climate, according to Rudy Nielsen, who in addition to Landcore owns LandQuest Realty, which specializes in rural properties throughout British Columbia. They are soft markets, he says, and I think throughout this year it's going to be the same market as last year. And here's the story where it gets directly related to Peachland. And all of you probably know Bill Dupuis, who's 77, and his wife Joan, 78. They live in Peachland, a community of about 5,200 people that is divided by the highway with houses built up a hillside, and the remainder on the flat portion next to large, deep Okanagan Lake. The town enjoys an average summer temperature of 27 degrees Celsius and little rain. Peachland has become a bedroom community to West Kelowna, which is only a 5 to 10 minute drive away. The average single-family house is 2,356 square feet and was priced at $476,256 in 2013, according to Landcore data. The town has 2 major developments underway, the Ponderosa with a winery and 18-hole golf course, and the 125-acre New Monaco. The town has the convenience of all the amenities in Kelowna, as well as vineyards that surround it, and access to Apex and Big White ski resorts. There is even a direct flight to Puerto Vallarta from Kelowna Airport. Mr. Dupuis and his wife built their lakefront dream home there 5 years ago, right here, I should say. The article, of course, is written in the Globe and Mail, and anybody and everybody can read it. And we're just simply reporting this out to you. Many of you may not have seen the article. I was speaking to our good friend Tim over at the hardware store, and Tim knows the Dupuis and mentioned about the property. And sure enough, we walk by it every day when we go take our doggy for a walk. And it's a 2,300 square foot house. It's actually considered a dream home. And Bill and his wife Joan built their lakefront dream home 5 years ago, and they're selling it. You can see the real estate sign out there now. And they're selling it to do as much traveling as they can before they go into an assisted living home. Their 2,300 square foot house features a fireplace in the living room and a master bedroom, a $40,000 private elevator, ensuite bathroom with cast iron tub, gourmet kitchen, and spectacular view of Okanagan Lake. Once appraised at more than $1 million, their home is on the market at $825,000. In Vancouver, the equivalent would easily run more than $2 million. So Mr. Campbell says if he were going to retire, he would look for a property in Peachland. He said, you have a desert, so your bones don't hurt. Well, we can testify to that. You just have to be able to afford to live in the area. It's a little higher, but if you've lived in Vancouver and you were selling your place for $1.2 million, which is easy, you're pretty set up. And then, of course, the article goes on to talk about north of Vancouver, the Sunshine Coast, etc., etc., etc. But most important part of the article for us is, of course, it's about Peachland. So, related to that article, interesting enough, and what's happening in British Columbia, and particularly in Vancouver, there was an article that appeared yesterday as well. And the headline, the story, we're going to talk about the story behind the headline, obviously, but the headline is BC property market hazy after millionaire visa scrapped. So, real estate agents in Vancouver say property prices could take a hit after Canada scrapped the program which allowed wealthy immigrants to fast-track the visa process. And, of course, they're referring, and as I say, people don't talk about it too much, but you might as well just say, the wealthy Asian immigrants that were coming. And that's the specific group, I think, that they're referring to. The Immigrant Investor Program, launched in 1986, offered visas to business people with a net worth of at least $1.6 million who were willing to lend $800,000 to the Canadian government for investment across Canada for a term of 5 years. By 2012, the scheme had to be temporarily frozen due to a huge backlog of applications from wealthy mainland Chinese hoping to come to BC. Now the government has announced it will end the program for good and scrap all 59,000 applications backlogged worldwide. The decision came less than a week after the South China Morning Post published a series of exclusive investigative reports into the controversial scheme. In West Vancouver, for instance, real estate agent Clarence DeBell is still receiving offers from mainland China for luxury property, but he's concerned the end of the investor program will have an impact on the local economy and the high-end housing market. I deal directly with these people who bring a lot of wealth, who are creating lots of jobs for local Canadians. Well, you wonder about that. Well, builders and trades, architects, realtors, etc. You wonder about that because clearly what you see on site with a lot of these homes, that they do hire their own trades. And so I'm not sure about that argument. Most of the buying is coming from Chinese immigrants who are wealthy. So if we make it difficult for them to come into this country, we have killed 80 to 90% of the buying in West Vancouver. Now, they're referring to West Vancouver. We can talk about the Kerrisdale area, which we sold our condo in Kerrisdale and left, and it's pretty much like Richmond, so pretty much 80% Asian owned now. And they're right. A lot of the people came, and we had a lot of situations where families where the father would come and buy the home and then return to Hong Kong and do business, and the wife remained, the mother and the children, and a lot of latchkey situations and in some cases where the kids were living alone. The teenagers going to the local high school in Kerrisdale, many of them were living in apartments that the father had purchased, and they were on their own. So that's very much the case on the west side of Vancouver. I'm not that familiar with West Vancouver, but anyways, the point is that all the agents now are saying, the real estate agents are saying it's going to affect the buying. And one of the immigration lawyers, Richard Kurland, spoke up and agreed. He said, when you suddenly stave off the intake of literally hundreds of millionaires in the Vancouver property market, prices can only go one way, and that's down. So I'm not sure this is, from the standpoint of those of us who lived in that area and were certainly not as wealthy as the Asian immigrants that were coming in, it did raise everything. So if you're selling, yes, you could do well and capitalize on that. But I said it was always a false economy, a false belief that this was going to continue. Well, now you can see it's not going to continue. So your value of your homes, as opposed to cashing in like a lottery where you have no mortgage, you got a lot of people there that were aging in place and in their 70s, selling their home, and really making, if they sold it for $1 million or $2 million, it was clear profit to them because they had no mortgage. Well, now if you see a decrease in the value of that property, yes, it's going to affect some people like ourselves who may have invested a lot into the condo, but we're not extremely wealthy. I don't think it's going to have that much an impact on. I mean, if you own your home outright, have no mortgage, and you're in your 70s, and instead of making $2 million full profit, you're going to make $1.5 million. Either way, you're going to do extremely well. It's so inflated in Vancouver that no matter how much you reduce it, it's never going to be at the same level of Saskatoon or Regina, where it's very affordable to own a home. So in many ways, I'm glad to see this happen because it does bring things back to reality, and it also levels the playing field a little more. And I think it's going to, my advice to people that are wanting to sell, probably sell now. If you wait 6 months, who knows what's going to happen. And this is why Peachland becomes so attractive, as I've always said, to people our age, in our 70s, early 70s, whatever. We're still active. We want to be in a community that's active. And, we should be able to attract a lot of the retirees from Vancouver who find now the island, with the high cost of ferries, it's virtually, that's a downer for considering going to the island. You consider coming here because you're close enough to the coast, especially in the summer months and spring months where you can hop across in 2.5 and 3 hours. But I think the real thing is that it's the quality of life. And so I think what we're going to see is we're going to see more people from Vancouver who are going to read this article at the Globe and Mail and say, okay, maybe it's time to make the move, and Peachland would be a great place. And the other thing that I find really appealing about Peachland is it's people, kindred spirits, so to speak, people who are young and aging in place and still active and wanting to enjoy life. We're not people don't come to Peachland to die. They come to live and enjoy the quality of life. So you're going to be around people your age, so to speak. And that's great too, because I've always said Vancouver, having been there for 45 years, it's really become a young person's city. And it's also struggling for its identity. No one's quite sure what Vancouver's all about. It's really a mishmash. It always has been. It was a port town and a lot of instability, and it's probably more dysfunctional today than it ever has been. You got this war between motorists and bicycle lanes. You've got Gregor Robertson with his sort of fantasy island approach to the way the city should be, and you got a lot of really wealthy people that are still there, but it's probably only, if you look at Shaughnessy and you look at West Vancouver, sure, and Kerrisdale, but, the average person in Vancouver now has had to be forced to leave Vancouver. So they're heading out to the burbs and Chilliwack and Langley. Well, if you're a senior and your kids live in Vancouver, the last thing you want to do is have to truck back and forth on that highway. Highway 1, and it's crowded at the best of times, and Chilliwack's like a one big construction site. Surrey is not desirable anymore to live. It's like Detroit. It's got a murder rate of, remember when they had the murder counts in Detroit? Well, it's kind of like that in Surrey. Today, Diane Watts is going to be making an announcement about a task force to explore, what they can do in Surrey. Well, you had 25 25 murders last year. I mean, you continue that rate of having a murder count. It's almost like there's a murder a day, whether it's a targeted hit. Generally, it's a targeted hit. But sometimes it's just an innocent victim like the hockey mom. You're looking at if it's a murder a day, that's 365 murders in the year. I mean, that's what's happening in Surrey. So it's like, and you're driving along and it doesn't, you absolutely do not want to give the finger to a driver because the guy will come up from behind you. And just like in the States, he may not be packing a gun, but he could pull out his tire jack and beat you over the head. There's a lot of anger in the Lower Mainland because people are struggling to try and make it, and they're trying to struggle so they can actually live in Vancouver. That's part of the attraction of Vancouver is it's so beautiful and people say it's so wonderful, but it's not so beautiful if you don't have a job. It's not so beautiful if you can't afford to live there. So Vancouver's housing is the second least affordable in the world. So the question always is, should we tax foreign buyers of Vancouver real estate? And there's a very strong argument for that because they don't support the infrastructure. Downtown condos have been left empty by foreign owners. So, there's a whole issue and debate that's going on, but people don't want to talk about it too much because it's referring to a particular targeted group, i.e. the Chinese immigrant. So, everybody's trying to be sort of racially tolerant and not be accused of this or that. But that's the reality, and you might as well talk about it, and you might as well talk about what's caused it. And that's exactly what's caused it. So, there you go. So there's my my little bit. We could go on about, you all know about Vancouver's housing, second least affordable in the world. We know that, okay? The question is, should we tax foreign buyers of Vancouver's real estate? Well, there's an argument, a very strong argument for that, okay? And the South China Morning Post story considers a levy on international buyers. Here's what they have to say. Vancouver's sky-high real estate prices and the influence of offshore investors has come under fire again. This is a controversial article on the South China Morning Post website. The Post article by Vancouver correspondent Ian Young focuses on translator Joy Mo, who was born in China and now rents a house with her husband and 2 children in Coquitlam. Mo, Mo, who has lived in the Vancouver area since 2002, blames her fellow countrymen and women for driving up local housing prices without contributing sufficiently to the local community. I'm not saying they shouldn't buy, said Mo in an interview with the CBC. I mean, nobody can stop them from buying. I'm saying for international buyers, shouldn't we set a different tax standard like a lot of other countries do? Mo is expecting her 3rd child and has been trying to buy a house in the Tri-City area. She and her husband have been outbid twice, once by a foreign buyer who's also from China. She thinks the way to go is an extra premium, a tax for offshore buyers, similar to the 15% tax on non-residents that Hong Kong has implemented. So Hong Kong has it, and we don't. I'm not sure it would actually push the real estate prices down, but at least offshore buyers would contribute a little more to society, says Mo. And that's been the argument all along. They don't support the infrastructure. The kids go to our schools. They use our highways. They use all of that, but they're not contributing to it. Now, you can say from a standpoint of assimilation, that's pretty much a given. That the assimilation process has not been proven that great, that successful. They generally will pretty much stay in their own neighborhoods with their own people and even hire tradespeople. Okay, so they don't, but they also expect the high level of education. That's why they're coming here. So they're using our system for that as well. So journalist Ian Young acknowledges that singling out one group to blame is contentious. Yes, that's what I've been saying. That's why people are afraid to utter the words. Okay, so they just whisper at cocktail parties. The fact that okay, so but she says it is contentious, but she thinks his article serves an important purpose. He says the fact that a large number of these buyers are Chinese should not deter a discussion about whether or not it is a desirable situation. Vancouver Mayor Gregor Robertson says the market is nowhere near as hot as Hong Kong's, but that his task force, another task force on housing affordability is checking out options. When politicians don't have an answer, they set up a task force, okay? Then the heat's off them and the heat's on the task force. And then the task force comes back, like so many times in Canada, you see all these reports and everything else, and in hopes that it'll all kind of settle down. And then the task force talks, and then really nothing really happens. We don't take any rash actions that might impact investment in the city, said Robinson, of course, who lives in his own little fantasy world. And by the way, just happens to be purchasing a new home in the exclusive West Point Grey neighborhood for about $1.5 million, who lives amongst the wealthy, and now they've pretty much gated off West Point Grey into a perpetual bike lane so he and his wife can just step out of the door, get on the bicycle with their kids, and drive anywhere in their neighborhood on bike, car-free. This is what's going on in Vancouver, folks. That is the reality. The mayor of the city has purchased a home and building a home in the West Point Grey area, which was highly contentious about